Welcome to my vertical obsession, and today we are talking about Bound by Honor on ReelShort. This stars Savannah Coffey as Aria and Rent Wellington as Luca. So the synopsis is, trapped in an arranged marriage to the cold and dangerous seductive heir of the New York Mafia, Luca, 18-year-old shelter Mafia princess from Chicago, Aria, must decide if surrendering her body and maybe her heart to the man born of violence is her greatest betrayal or her only chance at survival. So, like I said in some of my other ones, I've done like a little character analysis for Aria and Luca. So for Aria, we have a shy shelter girl who was never allowed to date or do anything, thrown into a marriage with a man she doesn't know, a man that's known to be cruel. So of course she's scared because she doesn't know what to expect, and being thrown into a life that could kill her. While she is scared, she still refuses to let this life break her down. The more time she spends with Luca, the more she sees a different side to him that he doesn't, helps him open himself up. She embraces the Mafia queen inside herself. She fights to stand by Luca's side and not be sidelined. So she starts off being very shy and sheltered and unknowing of what to expect, being thrown into this marriage with Luca, to slowly coming into herself and being more confident and fighting back against Luca and his need to sideline her, to the point where she finally just embraces this Mafia queen role that she's been given. And I really love seeing Savannah in these roles because she does a really good job of playing that shy girl that slowly comes into her own and becomes more confident and powerful. So I really love when we get to see Savannah play those roles. I loved her as Aria so much, and I was glad that it was her. As for Luca, he is a ruthless mafia buff who doesn't like when people touch what is his. He stands by a rule of not hurting women. He was taught at a young age to be cold and ruthless by his father, but his mother's compassion left a mark even after her death. He acts like he doesn't care about Aria, but refuses to let anyone touch her and hurt those who mess with her. He also respects her boundaries of not wanting to be intimate or having sex, waits for her to consent. He would both kill and be killed for her. He wants her to feel safe with him and with his touch, and he continues to show her she is the one he wants, and she is perfect as she is. And I really kind of love that about his character. Even though he's like, this ruthless and dangerous mafia boss, he was still very respectful of Aria, her boundaries, what she didn't want, and he wasn't going to cross those. So I really kind of like that. And also to the fact that, like I said, he cared about her and he loved her as she was. That was another thing that was really nice about him, because he didn't try and change her. He wanted her to stay the same person she always was. He didn't want her to change for him. He didn't want to try and change her. So I really kind of like that aspect. And I know this is a series that was adapted from a book, and I have not read the book or the novel. And I know there are plenty of fans out there that have read it and can probably compare the two and tell whether or not it was a good adaptation or not. Me, I sometimes like to separate adaptations because they're not always good. And I think I've kind of mentioned this in the past, like when I was talking about the Unwanted Bride of Atticus Fawn. Because I know there are certain series out there that just change the story completely or take things away and don't always follow the book or novel. So I can't say whether that this one does. And going back to the actual point I was making is that's why I kind of separate them from time to time. Because to bring up an example for once, the movie The Last Song, which is a Nicholas Sparks book, I had seen that one before I had read the book. And when I read the book, I was so disappointed that the whole story was basically completely changed. And I think for that one, the script might have been written before the actual novel was finished. I don't remember for sure, but I just remember like how different those two books were, or how those were, the book and the movie. And I had never been more upset by that one because I'm like, it changed so much. Whereas if to bring up another Nicholas Sparks books, because that for the most part, those are the ones that I know off the top of my head. And I can say that, oh, I've read those and I've seen the movies. So for like the lucky ones, or the lucky one, I think that's what it actually is. I love the novel. I love the book. I also love the movie. There is big differences between the two, but I still love both of them just as separate entities, even though it is like an adaptation. The same with A Walk to Remember. They're completely different stories, but the main story is the same. It's just the way that the movie adapted the story is different from the novel or book. So I enjoy them both as different entities. But if Bound by Honor is anything like this one, I will definitely try and check it out and read it and see different. Yeah, because I've mentioned that with Candy Jar. I know that for their series, they have series that they adapt a little bit different than the actual, let's say like novel or book on their novel app. So adaptations tend to change things basically. So I can't comment on that for this particular one, but I would kind of be interested to see what might have changed from the book to the series. So now for this one, I wrote two different things. One is just kind of like the overall story that I had written thing, where it's a story of a girl forced into a marriage she didn't want to protect her sister and family. Aria is believed that she was given to a monster who will only hurt her, only to find he's not the guy she thought he was when it comes to her, that he would do anything to protect her, also to prove to her he is not to be feared but to be trusted, that he is putting her safety and comfort first, even if she can't always see it. He was taught to be cold, but she has found a way to soften him. She is the one to open his heart and show him that he is more than just a mafia boss. And I think that's kind of like why I really enjoyed this story, is definitely the chemistry between Rent and Savannah. They had really good chemistry. He did a really good mafia boss. I really truly believed in his Luca character, and he always kind of like gave me this whole sense of, what are you going to do next? When I was watching it, even though you knew he was very respectful of Arya, I still kind of sat there going like, well, he's a mafia boss. Maybe he's going to change his tune and be a little bit more vicious, but he was never like that. And I think going back to one of the things I said about his character is that, his mother's compassion kind of stayed with him. So that's what made him very respectful of women, is the fact that he still had that compassion from his mother, like that side of his family, that his father wasn't able to completely corrupt him into this killing evil machine that he wanted. So I really kind of like that. They played off each other so well, and like I wanted more, definitely wanted more as it continued. I was sad when it ended. I was like, no, I need more of this. It was definitely a fun one to watch. I know Mafia stories and series can be a little bit, I want to say tricky, but also repetitive too. So I really kind of like this one didn't follow the norm, but again, mostly I think because it was an adaptation from a book. So I think that kind of helped make it stand out from the normal Mafia vertical series. So some of the things which I really didn't have many with this one, it was just really two, and they involved when Luca cut his hand and when Luca was shot. So when it came to the beginning, when it was the wedding night between Aria and Luca cut his hand, happened to notice that the cut vanished multiple times. And again, I think this stems from me noticing some of these things a little bit more. So I think I mentioned it once before that that's more because I had studied production and video editing, and ever since then I kind of picked up and noticed things more than I used to. Let me put it that way. There were some times when I noticed out there things, but ever since studying production and editing and doing my own editing, I've kind of picked up on like these little mistakes every now and again. And sometimes I don't have people to talk to about them, and sometimes I just kind of mention them or I just keep them to myself, but I do happen to notice them a lot more, and it doesn't take away from the series or anything. It's just fun for me to be like, oh yeah, I totally noticed that. But it's also one of those things where I also go in the back of my mind, it's like, did they do it like that because that was the better of the shots, or that flowed better for the scene type of thing? So I kind of also have that question in my brain too when I notice these, because I know that can sometimes be a factor to why it's like that. Or I don't know if that can be a thing, because I know sometimes when everything's done, they do like pickup shots. So if they needed to reshoot a scene or something like that. So I don't know if that is a factor in it as well. Anyway, so as I was saying, that the scene after the wedding where they're in the room where everyone's waiting for them to, have sex, consummate the marriage, and Luca cuts his hand to make it seem like they did. I noticed every so often that when it cut to him, the cut on his hand just wasn't there. It would appear and then disappear. And it all depended on how his hand was showing, because there were times where its hand wasn't showing as much, but you could still see it. It wasn't there. Other times it was a little bit more prominent. You could see it. But I noticed that from time to time, that it's just like it'll cut back to him and his hand was up and there would be no cut on his hand. But also that same cut kind of vanished after a while too. I think it was shown once more in what was supposed to be the next day shot, where he was like, well, I cut my hand for you, and they showed the wound, but I think we never really saw the cut on his hand again after. And then the other one, like I said, was when Luca was shot, and he just ended up kind of walking away from being shot like it was nothing. Like he just got up and was fine, and nothing happened. And one of the things that I had wrote down for this was like, oh, well, he's in the Mafia, so he's probably been shot multiple times. So that kind of makes it seem like it was nothing. So he's good. He can walk away. It's fine. But it just kind of doesn't make it as realistic, for me at least. If he's shot and then he just gets up and walks away like, oh yeah, I'm fine. We're good. It's just a scratch. And probably for a character like him, like I said, he might have been shot multiple times, so it might have been just like, well, it didn't hit anything. I'm not bleeding. uncontrollably, so I'm good. We can move on. But I just kind of noticed that in these verticals from time to time is that if a character gets shot, suddenly it's not always a big deal. In some of the series, yes, they make it a little bit more of a big deal, like it's a bigger injury, but there are some that it's just not as big a deal. And I think the majority of that time is mostly Mafia, or when a character is more of a criminal. Might not be in the Mafia, but he's still slightly a criminal. So I think that kind of gives us this sense like, oh, well, they've been shot multiple times, so it's nothing. It's kind of something that I've noticed, and this was one of those instances. It would have been nice if they made it seem more of an issue, or maybe just had him act a little bit more hurt by it. But again, I know they can only put so much in because they have to keep the story at a good pace and flowing, and they might not be able to put everything in that they want to. So that could be it too. But it was just one of the things that I kind of noticed when watching the series. So then for the overall story that I had, I said the overall story was good. And like I said, I know it was based off a novel by the same name. And I probably will try and check out the novel, see how the difference and how good it is, because it seems to be a very popular novel. I'm not the biggest reader sometimes, so bigger novels, I want to read them, but sometimes it takes longer. That's why I'm more of a film adaptation and TV. I'm a visual person. I like seeing things come to life for me. As I said, I love that even though, Luca was ruthless, he didn't hurt women, that even when Grace was bullying Aria, he banished her and didn't hurt her. He never forced Aria into sex. He let her decide when they finally consummated the marriage. He had some cruel moments about it, but he never forced her into the act, which is always really great to see a series like this. And Luca lived by a code and his word, and he stuck by it. Love Aria wasn't just the shy, naive girl, but fought back when she needed to. She didn't let Luca sideline her, but fought to be next to him. She wasn't going to let Luca be the cold monster he'd always been. Just as she showed her she was worth it, she showed him he didn't need to keep his walls up. That love was something he could do. And as I had pointed out, they challenged each other. They kind of helped each other grow as characters throughout this whole journey. Arya helped him embrace love and be kinder in his softer side, whereas Luca helped Arya become this strong, independent mafia queen and not let anyone give her shit. So they definitely played off each other. They helped each other become better people and characters. It was really fun to see that growth and how that all worked. And it was definitely really great to see, Arya wanting to help Luca and stand by his side while he was trying to work as the mafia boss. She wanted her inputs and to help him, and didn't want to just sit there and wait for him to come home. And I love that about her characters, that as it progressed and as he showed her to stand up for herself, she managed to use that to, as I've mentioned, become that mafia queen, to tell him that, I'm not just going to sit there and let you do everything. I'm going to help. We're going to do this together. We're in this together, and his acceptance of that too. So I really enjoyed that for this storyline. This was definitely a really good storyline. characters were well developed, and it said if it's anything like the novel, then it's a good novel, because I really read well. Sometimes the best stories and series are when characters start off fighting or not feeling like they're good enough or could be good enough, to slowly coming into their own and growing and realizing that they are good enough, they can find love, they can find love with each other, and when done right, it can be a really great series. And that's what I feel this one was. It was really good, the story was good, it made me want more. I don't know if there are like sequels to this. I think there are, but there might be other characters involved, because I think when I looked it up, there was some sequels, but they might have been different characters involved with the sequels. But I could be wrong. But it did definitely make me want more, and I love when series do that, when they make me crave more. Go, why? I don't want this to end. I want it to keep going. So for this one, I gave it a rating of 8.5 out of 10. And I know that doesn't seem so high when it comes to this one, especially since I loved it so much. There were still some things that I didn't rate high enough, because honestly, unless this series is motion picture good, don't think I'd give any series a 10, just because it has to be like spectacular. So I mean, I did give it high ratings, and like I said, it's based off that, added together and then divided by 7. And sometimes I'm actually shocked by what number I get after doing my rating calculations. I'm like, wait, really? That's really what I'm giving it? But I'm trying to go by this rating, which I've mentioned in the past, it's character, atmosphere, writing, plot, pacing, intrigue, and likability. And I rate those 1 to 10, and then add those all up, divide it by 7, and that's the rating that I get for the series. So sometimes it does end up being a little bit lower, but it does not reflect on how I like the series or not. It's just the rating scale that I'm trying to go by to give it a bit more fair rating. But I did love this one, and I highly recommend it because it was really good. And I want to watch it again. And I might just watch it again soon, because, like I said, Brent and Savannah did such a great job as Aria and Lucas. So to end this, is that, I would love to hear your thoughts on the series. If you had any favorite parts, if you had read the novel and how it compares to the series, whether or not you like the series or the novel better. Does it live up to the series? Were you disappointed in the series at all? And the other one was, is there something different you wish they could have done? This has been Bound by Honor from ReelShort. I'm your host, Meg, and this has been my vertical obsession. Until next time.